David with San Joaquin Valley Transparency auditing the police. Yep, we're talking about it again today because I think it's one of the most important factors to this movement. Really showing that people do have the power to make a difference, and that's the only reason I bring David on and we talk about this stuff. And plus, I've been arrested enough times to know there a lot of them are just bullies with badges. Okay, just being honest. But just recently we saw Mickey Clan. I just had her on my Rumble just serve the Maricopa board members with a lawsuit, and they hightailed it out of the building with their tail between their legs, Dave. And I mean, it was just really profound to see that we do have the power, but you have to have the balls and backbone to really step up to and claim your power. I mean, that's what the Constitution is all about. That's what this country is all about. They work for us. The police work for us. The city representatives work for the people. And it's just about knowing your rights, knowing the Constitution, and enforcing it. Correct, Dave?
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Knowing your rights is an empowerment. For me, I guess, auditing the police, that's why I put transparency in my channel name because I didn't want to come across as being anti-cop. Was kind of on the fence of trying to figure out whether I'm a statist or a voluntarist, try to understand what's going on. And I woke up and seen that the police in Kern County where I live were number one for police justified killings. So I decided to pick up a camera, start recording the police here in hopes of them maybe thinking that somebody's recording at all times, even if I wasn't there. I wanted them to think that I was there. So I started kind of approaching this, and I'm not gonna lie, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Said some things that I maybe shouldn't have. I'm not proud of some of my first videos, but I tried to clean up my act along the way, try to realize that I didn't want my approach to be so much being anti-police because I wasn't anti-police. I tried to understand certain things about policing. First and foremost, I try to weigh out, road piracy versus detective work. How many unsolved crimes are out there? Do we really need to hire a whole bunch of police out there? Like just giving infractions tickets to people for
Tax
infractions and
tax collectors, tax collectors. Let's call it what it is.
yeah, and exactly. And so and then you turn on the TV and you watch an episode of Cold Case Files. You can't watch one episode of Cold Case Files without seeing a family member or a friend saying that the cops screwed up the investigation or something like that. And it's just like, what are we paying for? Are we paying for cops to, go out there and generate revenue for the state, county, or are we paying for cops to actually solve crimes? And just makes you wonder what exactly is happening out there.
No, and I'm totally on board with this because our first line of defense, I've had Sheriff Mac on, I've had the sheriffs on, and I just saw recently that the sheriffs, let's say when an event happens on our soil, on American soil, due to these southern borders being open, the southern border being wide open, our first line of defense are the police, right? But it's really the sheriffs. And they just went to DC, Washington, DC, to be briefed by the FBI, which rose a huge red flag for me because I was like, all right, okay, now you're taking orders from the FBI. So we got to really get on top of this. So I've had a few sheriffs, Sheriff Mack being one of them, another sheriff on talking about this. And the truth is, people really need to understand their rights, really need to know who's in power, understand how the system of government works. And we got to start there. We got to start at a grassroots level. And I think when people just blindly come out and say, you're crazy. I backed up Blue. I backed up Blue. It's like, okay, that's fine. I do too. I back the police. But, and there's a lot of good guys in a bad system, but I back the police if they're doing the right thing, if they're working for the people. My family is entirely police officers. I have FBI agents in my family. I have a best friend that I just saw yesterday that works for the FBI. I won't say his name. Came over, we had dinner. He works for the FBI. And I have friends that my uncle was the chief of police. My uncle was the chief of police in El Paso, Bill Rodriguez. I have cousins that are cops, everything. I'm not against the police, but I'm against people that abuse their power and don't know the Constitution and our rights.
You bring up a good point, and I want to add to that. Something that not really many people are talking about right now. And you see some of the things that I see because I've been doing this for so long. I see some of these things in patterns. For one, cops have umbrellas of protection to protect them from some of the things that they do. Qualified immunity, internal investigations, police unions. Keep in mind that right now it's being proposed that they would like to give cops absolute immunity, to be immune from lawsuits and stuff like that. But let me
Is
ask you
that is
guys
that
something.
something that Trump wants to enforce?
Yeah, and that's what
And
scares me.
that scares me too, man. I've always said, watch this pendulum; it goes far left. And I know we need to do a cleanup. I understand that, but I am not about to give the police all this power, dude.
Right. And because of you mentioned the open borders. Now I want to say that they have implemented like policies and stuff in California, and it's going to be in other states as well along the way, where you don't even have to be a citizen or someone from this country. You could be undocumented and actually get a job as a police officer. So we have problems. We have this whole thing about the border going on. We're letting people come in and stuff like that. But then we want to give jobs to some of those people to become cops. Let's think about that. Like what is that going to do to our country? We already have a lot of problems anyways. And we're gonna let
Well,
people.
that's by design. This is definitely by design. This is engineered. I mean, I think we can agree on that, right? I mean, this is an obvious.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Okay. So
absolutely.
without having to get into it on fluff tube,